in one of the exercise of second experiment. See, what we have done is we have declared certain variables of type int a, char ch, float marks, and then what else? Double average. Let it be like this. So like this, any number of varieties of data types can be declared, and we can assign some variables with some values, and then we can identify how much size that this each of the variables are, each of the data types are occupying in the memory space by using a function called size of. So within the bracket we need to write the name of that variables, avg. So if we run such a kind of a program in our system, it will automatically find what is this avg stands for. Avg is a variable, but this variable is a type of double data type. So it identifies in a typical 64-bit computer, int will take a 4 bytes of memory, and character will take a 1 byte of memory, and float again will take a 4 byte of memory, and double will take a 8 byte of memory. So now our computer will find that this average size, that average variable size is of type double. So double will occupy 8 bytes in memory. So it will return 8 actually, but that 8 is a round number, so we need to catch that round number. Let's say that we will use any variable called what to say, we will simply use temp. Okay, so we should have declared this temp as an integer type. By declaring that integer type temp, we can able to collect it, and then we can able to display it to the user. Okay, so ultimately what is the conclusion here is, if we want to find the size of a data type, then we need to pass their variable inside the function, inside this operator called size of. Okay, so integer in a typical computer will return 4 bytes, and a float also in a typical 64-bit architecture computer, it will return a 4 byte of memory space. And similarly, this can be extended to sized, short int, long int, unsized int. Like that, we can extend it for all the other varieties of data type as well. So this is the concept of our size of operator. It returns basically the size of the variable. Okay, how much size it is occupying in the memory space. With this topic gets over, and now almost we have completed all the operators that are given in the syllabus. Now we will look at this storage class. Okay, storage class, very simple. So what I wish to say here for a storage class is, basically we are declaring a variable, and we are initializing some value to the variables, and then we are doing some programs. And when we are doing such kind of a program, so there is something called visibility or scope. We already have taken an exercise in the second experiment to understand the scope of the variable. Okay, in a function, if a variable is declared as a locally, that variable only will enjoy a more priority. Okay, so if some variable needs to be accessed in the entire length of the entire program, then we need to declare it as a global variable above the main function. So that defines the scope. So in addition to local and global variable, we also can have a provision of declaring a variable that falls into these 4 categories. That is, it can be declared as an auto, it can be declared as a register variable, it can be declared as a static variable, and then extern variable. Okay, so look at here, a storage class defines scope, basically how long that variable will be alive in the program, how long it will be alive, where in which are all the places it can be accessible. So that is defined by a topic called, or a concept in C programming language called storage classes. That storage classes falls into 4 types: auto, register, static, extern. Okay, always remember in this order: auto, register, static, extern. Okay, so keep this in mind. We will take up one at a time, and then we will learn what is that. Okay, before understanding these 4 categories of um, storage classes, I hope it is visible for you. Just look at it. Yeah, look here. We have got a memory hierarchy in our computer systems. Of course, this is somewhat deviating from the present topic what we are about to study. But there is a in two places we need to have an idea about main memory, cache memory, register memory, like that. So to that point of view, it is somewhat necessary for understanding. Okay. So in case before getting into this topic, I will draw a diagram. Look at here. This is our computer. Okay, and we have got, assume that we are working in a desktop computer. Okay, so here our processor will be there, CPU will be there, and we have got keyboard here. Okay, we have got a keyboard. See now, in the CPU we have got our hard disk, that is permanent storage device. Permanently all the files that we are storing in our system will get stored in this hard disk. Okay, hard disk drive, I am writing it as a HDD. Okay, so in addition to that, we also have a motherboard in the CPU. We also have a motherboard in the CPU. In that motherboard, we will have a RAM chip. Okay, either 2 GB or 4 GB or 8 GB or 16 GB. Okay, in number of slots, 2 slots, 4 slots, like that it will have. Okay, this is a RAM, random access memory. Okay, now in addition to this, we also have a processor chip here, processor chip. And in this processor chip, we will have a minute, a small portion of a memory called cache memory. The problem with my system is that it has only a very small cache memory. Okay, cache memory. Okay, exactly by 2.5 it was not at all responding. System is not at all responding. To do fine, students. So these are all the memories that are associated in our computer. Okay, so permanently stored files will be stored in this hard disk, and the file that we are currently in execution, currently we are seeing in our window, in our desktop, or currently we are running the program, everything will be in this RAM. Okay, that particular files will be present, taking its position or taking its memory space in the RAM. And then certain files we will often use that specific file. For example, in case if we are very fond of surfing nowadays, due to this pandemic situation, almost everybody spending so much time in the internet, and almost everybody will be using some one or the other browser, either Firefox or else Chrome. Okay, so the memory of the status or some certain cookies or certain very small information pertaining to that particular browser will be stored in this cache memory. Okay, let's assume like this. Okay, assumption is that we are using a browser, and that browser memory will be stored in this cache. Okay, so that it will quickly, as soon as we double click the Chrome browser, it quickly opens it, and then it will also loads what are all the previous history of files that we have previously used. Okay, so that informations are stored in this cache memory. So now you need to have an idea that hard disk is the permanently stored memory device, RAM is the currently executable files will be stored here, so it is said as a volatile memory, and hard disk is said as a non-volatile memory, and cache memory is again a kind of a volatile memory only. Okay, in case if you doesn't understand what is volatile, non-volatile and all, no need to worry. Okay, simply understand that RAM can also be called as primary memory. Primary memory. Okay, I think it is not cooperating with me. Primary memory. RAM is said as a primary memory. Why? Because the currently executable file will be stored in the RAM, and from that space only it is accessible to us. So this is called a primary memory. And the hard disk space is called as a secondary memory. Secondary memory. I am using a chemistry notations. Okay, secondary memory. Okay, actually you should not use it. I'm using it so that it will occupy a space. Memory is a small space in my screen. Okay, and this cache memory is a cache memory only. We cannot give a name for this one. Okay, cache memory is called as a cache memory only, cache, or somebody will say also as a cache. Okay, fine. So look at here, in the either in the hard disk or else in the USB drive or any extra storage, we can store a huge amount of data. We can store a huge amount of data, and that will be stored permanently until unless we are modifying it. Okay, that is magnetic disks or magnetic tapes. Everything these are called as an auxiliary memory or secondary memory. And primary memory is can able to store. See here, the hard disk space will be of 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte. Nowadays, our hard disk capacity have normally have reached up to 1 terabyte in almost all the systems which are coming now. Okay, whereas RAM capacity maximum nowadays we are able to see 8 GB only. Okay, if required we can extend it to another one more slot with another 8 GB. Together it goes up to 16 GB. Okay, not to this extent of a terabyte. Okay, it is a huge memory space. That is, secondary storage will occupy a huge memory space, whereas main memory will takes only a small quantity among that. Okay, in addition to that, inside the processor, I told that cache memory, instead of taking the content from RAM and working on it and displaying it to the user, okay, basically our computer will take the content from the RAM and then process it and then display it to the user here. Okay, instead of fetching from the RAM, it takes some time actually. Instead of fetching from the RAM and processing it in the processor and giving it here, certain very important frequently used programs will be stored in the cache memory. Okay, and that cache memory will be maximum 4 MB. Okay, if you are able to find more than 4 MB of cache memory, then that system will have a good memory operating or a good fast speed in processing. Okay, and in the cache memory, in the processor, in addition to the cache memory, we also have got a register memory. And this register memory, very often, very quickly, if we require certain things to be done, and that kind of programs or that kind of files alone will be stored in the register memory. Okay, very basically I can cite you an example that as soon as we open a system from as soon as we start our system, automatically in the desktop certain icons and all will get loaded one by one, or in the taskbar we can able to find that certain programs like speaker, that network connectivity, either Wi-Fi or LAN connectivity, date, time, these are all getting loaded, right? So that informations are basically stored in this register memory, and so that as soon as the system gets opened, they will get first loaded. Okay, and then so you see from here it is very faster. Okay, register memory will be much faster and cache is fast. Okay, primary memory is good in it, fast, or we can say that it will be the operating speed is good, and this is magnetic disk or hard disk space, they will be operating in a somewhat considerably good amount of fastness in operating. Okay, the speed of operation will be somewhat okay, like that we can say. So why I am saying all this thing is, you need to have a better understanding that where this hard disk is, where this RAM is, and where is our processor, and inside the processor we have got a cache memory, and in addition to the cache memory, processor also has got its own register, and that register is having a very small amount of information. For example, it will be in terms of a KB only. Okay, the memory size of the register memory will be in terms of a KB only. Okay, so in that very small amount of memory space, very peculiar amount of, or very specific file only will get stored. Okay, so keep this in mind. We will come to this point while we are learning this topic of storage classes. The same thing is explained here, students. I doesn't want to spend time in this one. Okay, same thing is explained here. Now we are moving into the first topic, auto. Okay, auto storage class. See, now so far we have done some certain programs, some 10 to 15 programs almost we have done so far. In all the programs, wherever we have declared variables, as soon as we are beginning our void main, we started our program by declaring a variables. Okay, so all the variables that we have declared as soon as we open a main program, okay, all these variables are by default are declared as auto only. Okay, by default it is auto only, but it is optional. We need not explicitly mention this auto while declaring the variable, so we are simply ignoring it. But actually speaking, every variable will have their prefix declared as auto by default. Okay, so nothing wrong in ignoring auto prefix to this or writing auto prefix to any variable. Okay, so that's all, very simple. No any specific information regarding to this, but basically such variables will be acting as a local variable within a module. Okay, for example, if this is a main, so within the main we are declaring this variable, so it is treated to be as a local variable. Okay, so basically it will act as a local variable. It will act as a local variable. Okay, nothing special in this one. Okay, only last two types will be somewhat interesting. Look at here, this register storage class. Next type is a register storage class. Register storage class. This register storage class, just now I have told that in our processor, okay, in our processor we have got certain important information stored in a cache memory. Okay, cache memory. Okay, but accessing the cache memory also a little bit difficult. So for that reason, we will store certain informations in the register. Okay, let's name that as a register. That small circle that I have written inside is a register. Okay, is a register. Okay, so if we want our variables to be acting very quickly or fetching the value very quickly, very faster than all the other memories that we are stored in a RAM, hard disk, or any other places, we can declare it to be a register variable. We can use this keyword register in prefix to our any variable that we are using. But it is nowhere guaranteed that if you are attempting, if you are demanding your computer that this keyword miles, sorry, variable miles have to be treated as a registered declare variable. We can demand, but computer, it will take the ownership of either declaring these miles to be a register variable, or in case if the register memory is occupied with some other important other information, then simply it will give it to the cache memory, or else to the RAM memory, or else to the hard disk's memory for its storage. So we can demand that it can be treated as a register data type, but computer will take the ownership of deciding whether to grant it or not. Okay, so the register storage class is used to define a local variable that should be stored in the register instead of a RAM. Okay, but if you are declaring such kind of register, and that should be stored in the processor, in that kind of registers we cannot use ampersand symbol. Okay, usually we will be writing ampersand symbols, no, to access it from the keyboard and storing it into the variables. So we cannot use such kind of ampersand symbols or pointer concepts and all. Why? Because this is stored in a very sensitive area, that is in a processor. If you try to access the memory of a processor, it is totally violation of the memory architecture of the processor. Okay, a processor will not reveal its what is the memory it is being operating. Okay, it will not reveal to anybody. Okay, so it is we should not use this operator ampersand. Okay, it will not provide us. Okay, then it should also be noted that defining register does not mean that the variable will be stored in the register. See, we can demand by specifying like this, we can demand you please store this miles variable in the register itself. We can demand, but the processor will see whether the register is sufficiently having a space. If it has a space, then it will allocate in the store it in the register itself. Otherwise, it will directly push it in the cache memory. That is the next level of higher memory. In case cache memory is also having so much fully occupied memory variables, it will give it to the RAM or else to the hard disks. In such hierarchy, it will keep on falling down. Okay, so it is not guaranteed that when we are declaring a variable as register, it is not guaranteed that it should be treated as a register only. Okay, it can be stored somewhere else also. That is the meaning of this last point. It might be stored in a register depending on hardware and implementation restriction. Might be means there is a chance for may not be also. Okay, so that is the meaning of this register storage class. Okay, see, both these auto and register variables are not at all a big concept, only just we need to understand their history. Okay, but often in the competitive exam as well as in the university exams, only these two coming storage classes, that is static storage classes and external storage classes, these two only will be confusing us too much. Let's not understand it by theoretical manner, we will understand directly by taking a program. I want everybody to look at this program, students. Okay, look at this program. Now I'm telling one sentence that when we are running a full program, provided if we are declared a variable as a static. Okay, okay, consider we are running one program, and in that program we declared one variable as a static. So until we complete that entire program execution and shuts that file, until we fully executes that entire file and closes that file, variable which is declared as a static will have its content persistently stored with it. Persistently stored with it. Okay, persistently or permanently stored with it. Okay, look at here. We'll take with an example. Let the statement be like that itself. Let's understand by the program. Hash include stdio.h void function, because I'm going to use a function in my program, so I'm intimating to my compiler that I'm going to use this function. And then I'm declaring one global variable. Since it is declared as a above the main function, it is a global variable basically. Okay, but in addition to that, we also specified that this is a static variable. Static variable meaning here is the value of a static prefix says that the value count, let's write like this, count. Okay, initially the count is initialized with the value 5. Okay, the value 5 will be fixed, freeze, or it will be freezed with the variable count. Okay, it will be freezed, it will be fixed with the count. Okay, but whenever we are revisiting the same variable once again, it will not get modified. Okay, it will not get modified, or it will not be reinitialized. It cannot be reinitialized. Okay, depending upon the logic, it may undergo some manipulations like 5 plus 1 and 5 minus 1, like that. It can go, it can undergo certain calculations. Accordingly it can get modified, but we cannot reinitialize altogether directly. Okay, keep this point in mind. Okay, now I am proceeding for the next line of X. Look at here, we are starting with the main, and inside the main directly we are making use of the count variable that we have used here. Okay, count, since it is declared as a global variable above the main, definitely it is accessible here, it is visible here inside the main function also. Okay, now look at here. Now initially when while count, see, while I was teaching the previous increment decrement operator, I have taught 2 point. Whenever we have got such kind of things in the while loop, we need post decrement. Very good. So post decrement means first the variable is there. Okay, basically that variable needs to be taken into consideration. First variable, okay, variable is there that we need to take into consideration. And next we have got a decrement, so I am writing it as a decrement. Okay, now look at the way that this loop is getting processed. Look at here. First, what is the value for a count? It takes it from the global variable 5. Okay, value for count is 5. That 5 is initially given to this loop while. Okay, see, whenever while of some high value, this 5 is a some high value, it is not a 0. So some high value is there. High value means it is true. Basically it is true. Only if it reaches 0, then only it becomes false. Okay, while of false will not execute this entire code. Okay, if since it becoming true now, it will go into this loop and then it will call this function. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, initially the value of a count will take this 5 into its place and then it will give it to this while loop for checking the condition. Okay, while of some high value number is there, which means it becomes true. So because of that, it will come inside. But before getting inside to this function, it will also process this minus minus symbol, because we have got the second condition as decrementation. Okay, decrementation. So what I'm saying, first it will check the condition with the help of 5, then it will subject to this condition of decrementation. So now what will happen, 5 minus minus, it will happen like this, 5 minus minus, which means from 5 it will get decremented and then it will reach to 4. Okay, so when it calls this function, presently it will come inside. When it comes inside, the value of the count in this place is 4. Okay, the value of a count in this place is 4. So it calls this function, it calls this function. So where is the function definition? Function definition is here. Function definition is here. My main function getting over here. Main function is starting here and ending here. Okay, then inside this while loop we are calling this function. So function is defined here, so it comes into this place and then it calls static int I equal to 5. Now look at here, we are again prefixing with the word static. Okay, we are again prefixing with the word static. This denotes that this static variable I has got a value 5 and this 5 will retain its value as many times we are calling this function. Okay, how many times we are coming inside this function, that many times the value of I will not get flushed out, it will retain its value. Okay, let me come to this point later, but now I'll go forward. Now I is assigned with the value 5 and then the next instruction itself, look at here, in the next instruction itself we are incrementing that 5. So as a result, I value will get now 6. Now in the printf statement, I is in the place of percentage %d, the first variable, that is this I will get printed, that is 6 will get printed. I is presently have become 6, so 6 will get printed. And count is, see what is the value of a count when we are calling this function? Count is, look at this box, count is 4 and that gets printed in this percentage %d. Okay, this count will give its value. Now as soon as we find this closing bracket, we will run again to this closing bracket, because function only called this one. So after finishing this entire function, my control will come here, but there is no another any instruction, so it will come to this place. Okay, that is what I have denoted here directly as it will reach us to this closing bracket. When it reaches to this closing bracket, it will again go to this while loop and see whether the while loop is fully exhausted. Okay, now the present value of a count is 4, so count will take its value as 4 here. Okay, and that 4 is given to the while loop. So now again also while of 4 will come, that is again a high number, so it is a true. But before getting into the loop, it will also find this decrementation, so from 4 it will decrement to 3. Okay, with the 3 value it goes inside, again it will call this function. Now previous value of I is 6, right? Previously we incremented I value to 6, no? That value will remain staying here. So when we are again coming to the function, I value will not be reinitialized to 5. It will retain its previous incremented value of 6 and then it will again increment and it will become 7. So when